Welcome to That Entrepreneur Life, a podcast about entrepreneurship that takes you from idea to launch and beyond. Each week, your hosts, Andrew Lees and 𝗁𝗵𝗶𝗀𝗃, discuss different business topics aimed at adding value to any entrepreneur's journey.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of That Entrepreneur Life. I'm Andrew Lees, and I'm joined with my co-host, 𝗁𝗵𝗶𝗀𝗃. How's it going today, man?
Everything's going good, brother. Glad to have you back on the show. Can't wait till we start recording and get this thing underway. But like I said, man, it's awesome. Glad to have you back and glad to have our actual guest today. He's an Amazon sales master. And, you know, if you've ever thought about selling on Amazon, or if you already do and you want to boost in Amazon sales, you're not going to want to miss this episode. But before I introduce our special guest today, I want to remind you to subscribe to our podcast and to our mailing list or our website so you don't miss out on all the free resources we have to help you start and grow your business. With that said, I'd like to welcome our special guest, Michael Begg, to the show. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. Andrew, 𝗁, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. And I'm excited to be here and speaking with you. And hopefully I can provide some value to your audience.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, we were just talking offline a little bit about Amazon and the ups and the downs, but really excited to hear your insight and your, tips and tricks and how people, I think there's a lot of people now, especially who want to sell on Amazon. So we're excited to learn about your insight and, to help our audience figure out Amazon and how to efficiently sell on it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Amazon's a great opportunity right now to kind of build your own first business, get a little revenue coming through. It really can just open your eyes to what's possible as being an entrepreneur. So that's kind of how I got started. And, it's a good place for a lot of people to start.
That's awesome. Yeah. Can't wait to dig in.
So Michael, man, when you mentioned that, right? Like you mentioned that, that's how you got started. Can you take us back? And this is a question we ask all our guests that come on. It's basically become one of those kickoff questions. But can you take our audience back and us back to when your entrepreneurial journey actually started and what it is about entrepreneurship that keeps you moving like today and get you fired up?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to get you fired up. But, just going back, I didn't ever see myself as like an entrepreneur. I wasn't one of the kids growing up that had like a lemonade stand or was like out shoveling snow. Like I hated all that stuff. So, I always was taught like, get a good job, make sure it pays well, have a good career, blah, 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 all that stuff. And that's what I did. I went to school, played lacrosse, graduated, went and worked at 𝗁𝗶𝗏. After that, I left and went into real estate development. And around that time especially 𝗁𝗶𝗏, I realized how miserable I was working for someone else and working for a big company like that. And that's kind of where it started to click for me. And I was like, hey, I need to do something for myself or this is never going to end. Like I'm always going to be dealing with this feeling, this problem if I don't do something to address it. So that's kind of how I got pushed into it. And then it just started with listening to a lot of other people that are out there, listening to stuff on YouTube, like how other people were making money, digital nomads. That was another big thing. Like how are people traveling and making money? So that's kind of another way that we learned. Then we just ended up finding Amazon, started with Kindle ebooks, then moved into retail arbitrage, and then finally launched our own brands. And now we have our agency.
That's so cool. When you say retail arbitrage, can you explain that a little bit? I think we hear Gary Vee talking about that arbitrage all the time. He throws that word out there, but some people might not really understand exactly what that is.
Yeah, bro. So, I mean, literally arbitrage just means you're taking advantage of pricing differences. So you get something for a lower price somewhere, you sell it for a higher price somewhere else. So in the Amazon world, what retail arbitrage is essentially at least the way we did it, was we were going to pretty much every Target, Walmart we could find and just buying whatever was on clearance that we thought could sell and then throwing it up on Amazon. And, we ended up making about $10,000 from that over the course of about 2 months. So that was kind of our first exposure into like a physical product. And I still remember like how great it felt selling something, even though I didn't make it or like, it wasn't my own. We sold an internet router for like $80, bought it for like 30 on clearance. And we were like, wow, this is like wild. Like we still made $40-$50 from this. So like we can definitely do this.
Yeah, that's it right there. And that's entrepreneurship. I mean, you don't necessarily have to make the thing that you're selling, but if you're figuring out how to sell it at, find, I mean, there's two sides to it, right? You're trying to find, as an entrepreneur, we're always trying to find the goods, trying to source them from somewhere, whether they're, it's custom manufacturing, or whether we're just going on Alibaba, or we're sourcing products from, or even services. You can do it with services too, but yeah, you find a product for a lower cost than you're able to sell it for, and you make a profit. And that's the beauty of entrepreneurship right there, is always trying to figure out how to do that. And it's fun to be creative with that process.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like you said, you can do it. I mean, that literal arbitrage model, you can do in anything. Like, if you buy it for cheaper, sell it for more. Same thing goes with services. You white label a service for cheaper, sell it for higher. Really, you can do this in any form of like owning a business or entrepreneurship. And it's just kind of the way a lot of businesses run. So a lot of big businesses run that way too, which is actually kind of surprising. For sure.
Yeah. And it helps you scale. I think being able to, if you're focused more on the marketing and the sales part of it than the actual, actually making the product itself, or actually, in the case of a service, actually doing all the work, the actual work, there's still a lot of work in actually marketing and selling a product. So if you can do that, you can scale easier than if you're in the weeds if you're a manufacturer, if you're in the weeds and actually making a product, it's maybe tough to scale. Or if you're in the weeds, like I have a product development business, I help develop physical products for people. If I'm the one doing all the engineering all the time, it's going to be really difficult for me to scale my business. So I need help with that. And so, I definitely see what you mean about being able to like white labeling services and all that kind of thing. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, I think you made a good point there. I always say it's always about just playing to your strengths. So like for me, I have two business partners. We're all good in different areas. If you're really good at sales and marketing, that's great. You can go out there and get the leads, just find someone to do the work for you. And you have a business right there. So yeah, exactly. Completely agree with that. Like just playing to your strengths, figuring out what you're best at, and then using that to actually grow your business is key.
Yeah, exactly.
I really, the arbitrage thing hits home with me because I did that for a while in the whole book game, right?
Yeah.
Like the selling books, trying to
back
find
in college or something.
Yeah, man. but it was a pain in the ass. So I was like, like you would find a book that would kill it and then it would stop killing it. And you're just like, oh, bro, like. But I can really get where you're coming from when it comes to say, hey, we're going to these box stores, getting some of these things on clearance and finding these hidden gems that like we can actually make money on. So that right there is the hustle and grind for sure. But man, I was in the book game for a little while, and it was not, to me, I was like, oh man, I started killing it right off the bat, and I was like, oh, this is where it's at. And then I got really unmotivated quickly, just for the simple fact that I went through a rough patch. And I was just like, man, the book game, doing the labels and doing all that stuff, man. Because I was new to the game, right? I didn't have like to where I was like pushing it off, and I was doing all that shit myself, man. And it got kind of mind numbing, and I'm like, bro, like I don't want to do this no more. So that's what I think. That's really what led me into the digital marketing game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's I think everyone kind of starts somewhere, figures out what they like or don't like about it, and then they just kind of evolve to what fits them well. It's the way we did it. So not surprised to hear you did it as well.
Exactly. Yeah, that's cool. So, Mike, I sell on Amazon. I sell a product. We sell in our Shopify store. We sell on Etsy, Wayfair, and also Amazon. And it's great because it allows us to, even though it is difficult sometimes, like we were talking about offline about the customer service with vendors and having issues uploading listings and all that kind of thing. It's great because you can get traction pretty quickly. You can start making sales sometimes a lot quicker than you can like on your own website if you don't already have traffic. But what are some tactics that that vendors often overlook? It's like you create a listing, you fill in all the information you think you need to, you throw up some pictures, cool, it's up there, and it starts getting some organic traffic. But what are the some of the things that people are overlooking to help scale and get more organic traffic to their listing?
Sure. Well, I think you brought up two good points there. It's like, one, yeah, if you're going to build your own website through Shopify or whatever other platform it is, you're not going to get that free traffic you get from Amazon. The volume of people going there is way more than you're ever going to have to your website. That's one thing. Another is obviously the conversion rates. I mean, I think the average e-commerce website's like about a 1 to 3% conversion rate. Amazon, the average conversion rate is about 8%. So that right there is just a huge difference. And that can really give you that boost to get going early on. That's massive. But when it comes to actually like getting started on the Amazon platform, doing it the right way, the fundamentals are always doing the SEO, making your listing rank well within the Amazon platform. That takes a lot of keyword research, figuring out what other competitors are ranking for, what search terms are the most important or the most relevant for your product, and then placing them in the listing based on how important it is. So most important keywords go towards the top, your title, your bullet points, product description, and then any other keywords that are left over go in the back end. And that's your keyword section, your search term section. So that's the fundamentals of just getting your product ready to just rank organically. And then beyond there, it's conversion rate optimization. So how can I make my listing convert better? So can I improve my product images? Can I call out the main product features or benefits to the end consumer in my product images so that when they're scrolling on their phone or whatever, they just see it right away? This is what I need. Attention spans are extremely short. So using the images for that is really important. And then beyond that, I mean, those are like the fundamentals. Beyond that, it's all about advertising and marketing and reaching as many people as possible. So obviously Amazon has their paid advertising, which is massive. They have some merchandising promotions, live streaming. Amazon Live is another one that's brand new. And that's really starting to look good. Seen some pretty good results with that so far. So lots of different ways to reach your audience. And I think one of the cool things about Amazon is that they're always rolling out these new features. So if you're able to figure out how to leverage those features for your brand, you can get a pretty good leg up on the competition, start driving more sales that way, and just keep driving more revenue for your brand.
Yeah, for sure. And is there anything with paid? Because the whole organic thing makes sense. We've done some paid advertising on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just like any paid advertising, it's always tough to get a good ROI, right? Like you're always really like, you got to figure out how to get that ROI, and then you can scale it up. But getting to the point where you've got a good solid ROI is difficult. Are there any tips to figuring that out? Obviously, keyword research and figuring out what kind of keywords you want to have your sponsored listing show up for is critical.
Yeah. So, I mean, with paid ads, there's so much different strategy that can go into it. You could probably talk like for an hour just about 100%.
That. Yeah.
But the fundamentals, obviously, you're a brand owner, you got to protect your brand. Obviously, you want to be bidding on your branded keywords, anyone that might be searching for your brand on the Amazon platform, because that's another common occurrence. A lot of people will actually go to your website, see your product, and they'll be like, hey, let me see if this is available on Amazon. I'll get it faster. So that's one big thing, obviously protecting your branded keywords. That's more offensive. Same thing with product targeting. Beyond that, you've got your keyword discovery type campaigns, which are all automatic placements within Amazon. So that's where Amazon's going to, place your product where they think it's most relevant based on the keywords you put in on the SEO side. And then you're going to get more keywords or customer search terms of what people are actually looking for on Amazon and figure out how that relates to your product. And beyond that, you've got, your broad, exact phrase match keywords that you can do based on whatever metric you're trying to target. So that is a high level overview of it. But even beyond there, I mean, sponsored brands, sponsored display, when you incorporate all of these into your ad strategies, like really when you're looking at building an entire sales funnel or marketing funnel within Amazon. And, that's something that we try to help our clients do because it is so important to be able to control people all the way through when they're, they're ready to purchase, when they're considering other brands, hitting them with your ads so they can see your brand, and then building that brand awareness as well as you can. I mean, it's a little difficult on Amazon for brand awareness, but outside of Amazon, if you're really working on a strategy there, driving traffic to Amazon, that's a good way to do a lot of brand awareness. So,
yeah. Well, I hope people reach out to you for that kind of thing, because especially with like the organic thing and SEO, that's one thing. Although I know you can help with that, and I know there's things that you can easily overlook if you don't know what you're doing. But especially on the paid side, I mean, it makes sense to work with somebody like yourself who just knows knows the ins and outs of it. And you're not just going to be running like an automatic campaign and call it a day. You have this funnel and this strategy that you're going to implement, which unless you know what you're doing is so difficult. And you could waste hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars trying to figure it all out. You might as well just work with somebody like you who knows it.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, Amazon's not the way it was. Like, I started selling 8 years ago. You could just throw a product up, SEO it, and it would start selling. I remember our first product we launched, it was like December. So it was the middle of Q4. Product goes up, SEO'd well. First day we sold like 40 units and we were pumped. We were like,
yeah,
right,
that's big.
We did it. This is awesome. We figured it out.
Crack the code. We're going to be millionaires instantly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way anymore. Amazon, it's more pay to play. There's more and more ad placements. There's more and more competition, especially with COVID. So many more brands realized that they had to be there. It's driven up a lot of the advertising costs for a lot of other brands. So yeah, I mean, you can go about it the way you want. You can find ad agencies that'll, go out and spend a certain amount because they're on a spend, their fee structure is based on the ad spend. That's not the way that we work. We think it's always good to, start with the fundamentals, start showing you a return on your advertising dollars, and then let's focus on scaling. Like, we don't want to be incentivized by spending more of your money. And I think that's a big issue with a lot of companies. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you're focused on actually getting that return.
Yeah, and I think with paid ads, guys, I mean, one of those things though, and you mentioned it before, is like the having a strategy in place, like the vision, and having what you want to accomplish, and knowing that when you come into paid ads, you actually have to have money, like, to spend on paid advertising for you to be set up for success. Because what happens is a lot of times people are like, oh, I'm going to come in here with $100. Like, bro, like, one, you're not letting us split test. You're not letting us do a whole bunch of things that we need to do to really get you where you need to be, right? Like, you're not going to be successful. So I think when people try to first, like the ones that aren't educated on the process, one, need to be well educated on why a strategy needs to be implemented and why all this stuff needs to be thought about. Because one thing is like, okay, they watched a YouTube video. Now they're knowledgeable on everything paid advertising. You're like, bro, how long was that YouTube video? 10 minutes, 15 minutes, maybe 30 at max. Like, and you think just because he said this, that you're just going to come in and do it like that guy did and start killing it. I was like, no, look, that guy's educated in the process. He knows there's a full-blown strategy that he has to implement to make this damn thing work anyway. And then it's just really it's going to get you frustrated and aggravated not having that strategy launched and in effect. Because again, if you half-ass something, man, you're going to get half-ass results. And at the end of the day, it's like if you come into paid advertising and be like, I'm just going to test the waters. Like, bro, like, first, before you test the waters, let's get a strategy in place or something that's structured that makes sense. Now let's go test with whatever, Mike says, or whatever. You go in and be like, hey, man, I recommend starting here because this is why. We can do split tests. We can do display ads, whatever it is. And I'm just talking about paid ads in general. And it's just like, I'm not really not too knowledgeable on the Amazon side of things. But when it comes down to it, man, it's all similar. But you also have to know what works and doesn't. And especially when you've been doing this and you've been in the game for a while, you kind of know, like, you can go ahead and set a strategy up for somebody, even though the strategies might be completely different than what worked for somebody else. But you have a starting point in education to where you can say, okay, this is what needs to happen for us to get that ROI quickly. So you can start seeing that 2-to-1 return or more. And then they start trusting you. And then you're, okay, let's bump it up because we really feel confident that we can kill it for you.
Yeah. And I think you made another couple good points there. Is like, yeah, you can go in with a small budget. People do that. They make money that way. It's more about, in that side though, like product selection. So like, how can I build a better catalog of products that aren't as competitive where I don't need to spend as much money? That's one strategy. But if you're going to focus on actually trying to build a brand, actually trying to, create some brand recognition, brand loyalty, so people keep coming back to you. Obviously, like, creating a long customer lifetime value would be great. It's kind of like the old story of like the razor and the razor blades. Like, sell them the one piece so they keep coming back to you for everything else. That's that is a different strategy. You got to have money there. And I mean, if you don't have the money yourself, maybe you need to find investors, but I mean, there's opportunities for both people that want to go either route. So, and then the other point obviously is that you're right. Like the strategy, no two strategies are the same. We're going to listen to what the goals are, what you're trying to achieve. And then we're going to try to help you achieve that in the best way possible. Something's not working. We're going to pivot. We're going to make changes. But yeah, having that flexibility and that knowledge and that awareness of what will work or won't work or has worked or hasn't worked in the past can help you avoid a lot of the pitfalls. And, that's what most companies don't think about when they go into doing it themselves. They're like, oh yeah, like I've run Google ads before. Like, oh yeah, like I did Facebook. Like I can figure this out.
Yeah. It's
not the same.
You got a flash in the pan success with like a Facebook ad. It works well. And then all of a sudden you're an expert. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I don't know. I don't want to swear, but I don't know anything about Facebook ads. Cause literally like I run Facebook ads sometimes for some other things I have. I can't get good results. I'm like, I don't think anyone's getting good results anymore, but I was like, I can't get good results. I'm like, I don't understand this, but come to Amazon, like I'm fine. I can handle that all day.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and that's the thing. I think a lot of people try and do too many things and they try and be okay at all of them. And it's really important it's not to say that you can't at some point be really good at all of them, but after you pick one thing, like selling on Amazon, you figure that out, you figure out your system, your funnels, your whole strategy, and you figure out how to scale that up. And you nail down your ROI, you figure out in some cases, like, product I have, it's really difficult to get a good ROI because our cost of goods are relatively high. So that's something that's like a logistical issue that we have to kind of figure out, and it might prevent us from advertising for at least for some products. So that's something it's really good to know before you really go, you really dive all in. But yeah, good to figure out maybe Amazon, then figure out your Shopify store or your whatever platform you're using, and then do all these things. You can have them all set up and just have them, have your product listed on all these platforms. No harm in that, as long as you're not pouring a bunch of money into each one, expecting results and they don't come. Yeah, really good to just focus on one at a time.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to what I said earlier, like play to your strengths, figure out your strength, learn one platform really well. Try another platform. If you can't figure it out, bring someone in to help you. It's going to be a shorter learning curve by having some of that knowledge or some of that background. Just focusing on what you're good at, if it's Amazon or Shopify or whatever it may be.
For sure. Yep.
And I think you hit the nail on the head, man, when you said product selection, right? Because you got it. Like if you do sell a whole bunch of different products, it's like select the products that you know that you can have some easy success on, some easy wins, and put your money towards that. And like you said, testing the waters there is a good strategy in some cases. But again, if I sell 100 products and then I'm trying to advertise for all 100, that it's watering everything down, man. And it's like, let me select what's hot right now. What our goal is to push this one product that's new on the market. Let's push it out and get into people's hands. And I think product selection is huge. And I think everybody needs to be cognizant of that, for sure, even our listeners.
Yeah, I know plenty of people that just sell a bunch of random products and they make, over $100,000 a year in profit just from selling a bunch of random stuff. So, if you do your research well, if you find the products that do well, if you source well, that's obviously extremely important. You can have success doing this, just throwing products up. But yeah, that's huge. And not spending all your ad money across all of them.
There you go.
Yeah, for sure.
So Mike, man, we all know e-commerce is really the name of the game to a certain extent. But what do you think the future of e-commerce will be in the next 5 to 10 years? And then, and I think I know the answer to this question, will brick and mortar hang on, or will e-commerce just continue to dominate, my man?
It's always a funny conversation when I'm talking about brick and mortar, because I used to work in retail real estate development. Right. So I was dealing with Sears, which was a failing company, and watching how it go down slowly, and at the same time doing my Amazon hustle on the side. So I was like, one of these is in ascendancy, one of these is on the decline. So
there you go.
Yeah, just got to figure out how to do it. And yeah, I think one of the cool things that I'm seeing right now, or that we're doing with a lot of our clients more and more, is the live streaming. So Amazon Live is a great platform for that, but live streaming in general is really great. I mean, it's one of the most popular ways to go shopping in Asia. So it's super popular in China, Southeast Asia. Everyone does live streaming their products and live stream shopping.
Nice.
So I think that will continue to be adapted more and more in the US. Apart from that, like the other big thing I think we're going to see is continued improvements in logistics. When we look at what's going on right now, I mean, obviously Amazon keeps pushing that barrier of how fast you can get your product. But there's a lot of other players in the market that if they can figure it out, they can do a really good job with it. I mean, the big ones that come to mind are Walmart and Target. So right now, like the Walmart platform for e-commerce, it's not that great. It kind of sucks, to be honest.
Yeah.
I really hate the advertising on it. Like there's a lot of issues with that platform. And Target, like it's even worse at this point. But the unique things that they have is that they have that retail footprint right now. So if you look at every major metropolitan area in the US, I mean, there's at least one Walmart or Target, probably 2 or 3 in some instances. So when we think about last mile fulfillment and getting the product to the end consumer faster in the future, if we're actually thinking about these, super Walmarts or mega Walmarts or Targets or whatever they're called, actually becoming fulfillment centers and actually being able to get the product to the end consumer within an hour or faster. I mean, it's super possible for them to do that if they can figure it out. But I think I would expect to get continued faster and faster shipping times in the products we're purchasing.
100%.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, I mean that's the name of the game, is getting that, getting as many fulfillment centers as close to the consumer as possible. And Amazon's trying to do that, but like you said, Walmart and Target kind of already have that, but they don't have it set up to do the same thing that Amazon's doing. So it's not a fulfillment center, but I could definitely see that, like Target's adapting to where half the store is just a warehouse.
Just call it Audible, bro. It's just like
exactly. Yeah.
I mean, for real, that's like one of the things you look at in retail real estate is like, what's your sales per square foot? And when we think of Walmarts and Targets, they have 100,000 square foot store maybe. And if people are coming into the store less and less, the sales per square foot is going to continue to decrease. So now what's the sales per square foot of me having the inventory there that I can actually send out to the end consumer that's purchasing it? And not only is it just the square footage on, one level, I'm going to have stacked storage. So I can increase the amount of square footage I have within my store by having more storage. I mean, there's just so many opportunities for it. But I think they're definitely behind, the 8-ball. It'll just be interesting to see whether Amazon can actually catch up with them on that, or whether they actually do make that shift and kind of take advantage of it.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. It's just kind of like Walmart and Target are moving towards having, using their, their value is having those, all the stores, all their locations, right? So they're moving more towards a fulfillment and like using what they already have. And then Amazon is racing to get as many locations as many fulfillment centers as they possibly can. So they're kind of like converging on each other a little bit. So yeah, it'll be interesting, kind of like a foot race at this point, but it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. So it's crazy.
I remember like when I first kind of saw this happening is when I was at Sears, and, we're looking at, it was a tough time. We're looking at like what stores we're going to be closing, what stores are doing worse, where is our lowest sales per square foot? How much money are we losing on our rent? Whatever it is. And there were some stores that we were looking at and we were getting offers for that were in like, the middle of nowhere. Like, it was a crappy mall. And then we figured out that companies like Walmart, companies like Amazon, FedEx, UPS, they were coming in and they were just buying the entire mall to use for a distribution center. So now you're repurposing a lot of, storage that's already built or space that's already built. So you don't have to actually have that cost, and you're taking advantage of this mall being worthless virtually as a mall. So that's kind of where I first started to click in my head, where I was like, oh, this is kind of crazy that Amazon is buying up a mall when everything's online. And then it was like, oh, they're just going to make this so much easier to get the product to the end consumer. So again, it's that same concept of what Walmart and Target could possibly do. Except instead of doing it with a store, Amazon essentially has a whole mall now that they could potentially do it with if they wanted to.
Right. Yeah. It's incredible when you think about it, just in terms of the real estate. That's like a whole nother thing, because you can sort of take for granted that Amazon has been building all these locations, but it's like a massive capital expense to build a huge warehouse. And if you've got these, dying, these infrastructures that the business inside is dying, it's like one snail coming in and taking over another snail shell or something, just like so just kind of using that infrastructure that already exists. It makes so much sense.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the demand for industrial space or warehouse space in general is crazy across the board. I mean, I remember like 7 years ago, or not 7 years ago. 7 years ago, damn. 7 years ago, it was already pretty crazy. And I think even over the past few years, the demand's gotten higher and higher as more and more people need the space to actually store their goods to deliver it to their end consumer.
100%.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, I have one. I've actually got two questions for you here. Before I jump into the next question that we normally ask, I wanted to ask you a little bit about manufacturing in Mexico, and especially right now where manufacturing or really shipping from China is absolutely insane, and that has been a result of containers getting stuck all over the place. Like US and Europe, when COVID hit, everything they had all these containers that just, stayed in place where they were. And I don't think that shipping cost is going to come all the way down where it was in the near future. So what are your thoughts on manufacturing in Mexico? And is nearshoring a really great alternative to offshoring?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great opportunity. And there's a lot of other factors that are going in there. I mean, the storage containers themselves is one thing, but actual shipping companies were cutting shipping lanes from China to the US prior to COVID. So two major shippers cut a lot of their shipping lines. So now there were less ships crossing, more people trying to get their goods, more people purchasing online. And we're just seeing a massive supply shortage now, pretty much across the world. But Mexico is a great alternative to it because, the cost of manufacturing is actually probably pretty comparative to China. Mm-hmm. It is probably a little bit higher when we think about it, but the amount of money you're going to save on the actual delivery to get the products over the border is massive compared to China. So
right.
We obviously have a free trade agreement with Mexico. So that makes it a lot easier dealing with the customs side. I mean, I remember when I was importing stuff from China, I found out that colored pencils have a tariff that I wasn't aware of. So we ordered a huge shipment of colored pencils, not knowing that we were going to have all this additional cost. It pretty much destroyed our margin. So that's one of the challenges. So that's another great benefit of Mexico is that it's a little bit easier to do business there. And we think about the manufacturing centers. I mean, pretty much anywhere along the border, you can find a ton of factories, a ton of manufacturers that can actually make goods for you. Or if you go to a lot of the bigger cities, like I live in Guadalajara. In Guadalajara, we have a ton of factories. Monterrey has a ton of factories as well. Mexico City does. So there's a lot of good opportunities to find places where you can get your products manufactured. And then instead of dealing with the expense of sea freight, which is like, I think the last quote I saw was like $17,000 for like a 20-foot container.
Oh, shit.
You can just truck it in.
Up.
Yeah. I think that was the last one I saw.
That's up from it was probably like 2,000 a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I had a client that said they sent one last year. It was like 4,000. Wow. And now she's looking at the cost and she's like, "Oh my god, like how am I supposed to do this?"
Yeah, you got to be shipping gold basically for that.
Seriously, your margin better be wild on the product you're sending. But Mexico's a great alternative to that, and like we manufacture a lot of our own products in Mexico. We have friends that are contract manufacturers essentially and do help other companies find the right manufacturer for them. Mm-hmm. But it's a great opportunity for a lot of businesses that are kind of struggling with supply chain backlogs from China or Asia in general.
Yeah, that's very cool. Well, I'm going to have to catch up with you about that offline because I want to pick your brain about that. I help people outsource their products, the manufacturing of their products. And I work with mostly US and Chinese manufacturers, but I'm actually currently trying to explore Mexico. So I think it's a really great option. That's great because we're connected by land. So that'll never change. You can always truck things back and forth, which is great.
Yeah, no, that's one of the great things. Even with COVID restrictions, the one thing that's allowed to go through fine is freight. So like
Sure,
literally
sure.
you never have to worry about anything. So
That's awesome. That's very cool. So switching gears a little bit, Mike, through your entrepreneurial journey from the highs to the lows, what has been the most difficult thing for you about being an entrepreneur?
that's a tough one.
Could be
I
a couple
think-
things.
Yeah, it could definitely be a couple things. I think part of it is obviously giving up control. As you start to grow a business, you need to start bringing in more and more people to take over responsibilities. And a lot of times it's just a trust factor. Like maybe you don't have that trust with them in the beginning, or you're afraid that they're not going to do it as well. I mean, the reality is unless they are a business owner as well, they're never going to care about your business as much as you do. So just finding the people that can do the best job possible, and obviously at the same time, keep their job focused enough where they're not overwhelmed with work. So having that ability to give up control is definitely a big challenge, but luckily we've been able to hire some really good employees there in Mexico and other countries as well that have really helped us to start scaling. So
That's amazing.
I think I've gotten better with it, but it's still sometimes it's tough.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that myself, is trying to work with people who are helping you. Like for me, people who are helping me with engineering work. You know, I'm overseeing all of the projects that I do, so I'm still managing everything, even if I'm not doing all of the engineering work. But it's tough because I'll get some, you know, guys I work with, I'll get some designs back from them, and I'm like, oh man. Not sure they get it. You know, it's like, I know they're good enough to get it, but they're not getting it on this one, you know? So it's like difficult. And then it ends up sometimes becoming a little more work, but it is so worth it to really find those people who can help you scale, because you can't do it yourself, and
Sure.
You have to figure out a good system that will, you know, and maintain your quality though. That's always super important. But
Yeah. And I think that right there is actually like that big next step of control is like now in your case, at least now you're at the point where you need someone that's actually going to manage the quality of the end product.
exactly.
Like
Yep.
you're still like one of my business partners does that. He oversees a lot of the projects we're doing and the content that we're putting out, but you can't do that once you get to a certain size. Like you need someone that actually can manage the product quality well. And that's a really tough one, because at the end of the day, all the client cares about is the product quality that they're going to be getting. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And your sales are going to dip, and you're not going to get referrals, reviews. It's like, it's a downward spiral. So you gotta get that right. I think even if it takes a little bit longer to get that right. Or sometimes, you know, you find somebody you think is good, and you have to cut them loose, or, you know, you find a manufacturer you think is good and they do a couple production runs and it's just not working out. And like, you know, hey, it's better for everybody involved if you just cut them loose and work on finding a new partner. It's so important.
for sure, firing people, that's another hard one. That's another really hard one. I mean,
Yeah.
you're playing. I mean, you're giving someone a job, but like when it's not working out, making that decision, cutting them loose.
Yeah.
That is very hard conversation. I remember the first couple times I had to do it. It was like, you know, it was very hard. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, once you get more comfortable doing it and dealing with people, like it becomes easier. But that's another big issue you have once you start hiring.
Definitely. Yeah. I can understand that.
Communication is key too, man. I mean, I think along the process is letting everybody know is like, you know, if somebody is struggling at understanding what you're trying to tell them, or what you're like, hey, this is what I envision. But if they're struggling, it's going over there and giving them some retraining, or saying, look, this is what needs to happen. Because we all think differently, right? We're not the same individual. I think even if there was two of me, I wouldn't think the same way at any given moment, right? Like it would be a little bit of a difference. But at the end of the day, it's like, you know, just having that open communication. And I think the lack of communication in some cases, in a lot of cases, because people assume a lot, right? We assume like, okay, I told him, he understands it, right? It's like, you know, is there an SOP established of how you get it done that can help guide them to kind of, you know, try to look through the lens that you look through, right? Because everybody's thought process is different. So establishing SOPs in certain things, and it's not really micromanaging them, but just letting them know this is how I get stuff done. And this is a good starting point and end point for you, like just to guide you through this process. And I'm not telling you what to do or how to do it, but this is what we need done, right? And then I'm just letting you know, boom, this is my train of thought when I'm doing this. Maybe it helps you get in my shoes and helps, bridge any miscommunication there could be. Because again, when you assume, at the end of the day, it's like, oops, my bad. Like I thought this dude had it, but it's like, damn, now I have to go in and put the fire out or fix it myself. Or at the end of the day, because this person missed it 1,000 times and just isn't clicking, I have to fire him, right?
Yeah, unfortunately that happens.
Exactly. It does. And so, but I think, again, if you communicate everything properly, that's not saying that person is going to get it right and that you're not going to have to fire him, but it lets you know that you did everything possible to help that person. And I think it can lift a little bit of the stress or the weight off of actually letting somebody go, because it's like, dude, at the end of the day, it's just not going to work. Like you're a good guy, right, on a personal level, but you're just not getting what we're trying to do with inside of my business, and it's really, again, hurting with the reviews or hurting with this, and like it's just not, you're not going to cut it, man. So unfortunately, we had to let you go. So. Yeah,
documentation is extremely important as well. That's 100%. That's a very big one.
100%.
I think Confluence from Atlassian has been like one of my favorite tools ever. Just documenting all of our SOPs and everything. It's fantastic. But yeah.
So Mike, man, dude, I believe me and Andrew could sit down there and talk to you all day, because everybody that we have on is interesting in their own way and has their unique strengths. But as we wrap up this episode, brother, if you could leave our listeners with one piece of advice, what would it be?
Oof, that's a good one. There's a lot of different advices you can go there. The biggest thing, I think if you're kind of on the entrepreneurial journey, is just to kind of trust in what you're doing. A lot of times you're going on a route that you've never done before. You don't know what's going to happen. You have no idea what the outcomes are going to be. When you start letting in that kind of negative mental thought or negative mental talk, where you're telling yourself, I'm not sure about this, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. Like, you're going to make mistakes. That's going to happen. Like, that's just part of the process and part of the learning. But if you let that really seep in, start like getting into your thoughts, you're going to lose focus on what the end goal is, and you're probably not going to get to the end result you want. So I know it's happened before to myself. I know other people it's happened to. Sometimes people fail in their first business, kind of get into that thought process, but moving beyond it, trusting in what you're doing, trusting in the product you have, trusting in your knowledge and your ability to get things done is ultimately going to help you be more successful in the long run.
Yeah. That's amazing advice.
For sure.
It is easy to give into those thoughts of, especially, we're sitting here on a Monday, sometimes getting through a Monday is a little bit harder for whatever reason, even if you're working through the weekend. But yeah, it's so important to just keep chipping away at things. And eventually, if you're focused on the right things, you're going to get some traction at some point.
Exactly. So that's what it's all about.
Taking that leap of faith and embracing the journey, really, at the end of the day, man.
That's it.
It's the thing I always say is just burn the ships.
There it is.
There's no going back.
That's one way to do it. Yeah. It doesn't give you too many options then. It's good.
Love it. Well, guys, I think that's a wrap for this episode. And from the both of us, Mike, man, we want to thank you for taking the time out of your day and joining us and adding value in what we're doing on our podcast.
Hey, Clinton, Andrew, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. And, hopefully we can do this again sometime.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, we'd love to have you back on, man. It's been great to have you. Thank you all so much for listening to That Entrepreneur Life. To learn more about what Mike is working on, check out 𝗂𝗶𝗶𝗀𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋𝗋 book about the success mindset at thatentrepreneurlife.com.
Thanks for continuing to support what we do as entrepreneurs. And don't forget to join us next week for another episode of That Entrepreneur Life.
Thanks for listening to That Entrepreneur Life podcast. Be sure to visit thatentrepreneurlife.com to join the conversation, access our show notes, and discover our fantastic bonus content. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode as we continue to add value. Until next time.